Protege, and we ended off that set with a song called Prime Time by Janelle Monáe and Miguel. And that song was just already on my playlist, but I figured to end it there because Janelle Monáe is a Kansas City legend. Did you know that? Okay, well, yeah. She's from Kansas City, but on the Kansas side. So I don't really think that's any less significant.
Some people make it significant. I don't.
It's like it's the same thing. What's funny for me is going to reggae concerts. The Jamaican artists come from like clear across the way. And then they're like, hey, what's up, Kansas?
Yep.
And then everyone's like, we're in Missouri. But like, how would they know? They wouldn't know. I don't know.
I get questions about that all the time. How can it be the same city, but both states?
The states.
I go, because it's the same city that crosses state lines.
It's possible.
It's easy for us to understand.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I didn't really introduce him, but this is Michael Reisinger.
That's correct.
From Kansas City Business Cast. And we're going to start his interview with a song.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about it, or just the name and the artist, and then we can...
Yeah, absolutely. So just found out about 5 minutes ago that we play all kinds of music on this radio station.
Yeah.
Not just reggae. So I was like, how about Prayer by Sevendust? This is one of my favorite songs. I've been listening to it for, I don't know, ever since it dropped in the 90s. And I just think it's a really, really good track. LaJohn Witherspoon, too. Mm-hmm. He is from Kansas City, so I feel like there's significance. A lot of people don't know that, too, about Sevendust.
Nice.
So, yeah, Sevendust Prayer. Let's go.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to get into that song, and then we're going to come back and do our interview. So thank you guys so much for listening to Vital Vibrations Radio. We'll be back. You are tuned in to Vital Vibrations Radio right here on 90.1 FM, KKFI, Kansas City Community Radio. I'm the host, DJ Jams, and I thank you guys so much for tuning in. That song you just heard is called Prayer by Sevendust, and that was requested by Michael Reisinger. This was so much fun.
Isn't it?
I know, legit. We were just saying, we're going to try not to keep saying how cool it is, even though that's obvious. All right, so he is from Kansas City Business Cast, which is his podcast. It's on like YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah,
like that.
YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to read your bio, and then we're going to get started and let everyone know a little bit about you. Michael Reisinger is a California native who moved to Kansas City in January 2015. He started his own business coaching service. How do you say this?
Vocati ad Servitium, or VAS.
Nice. Well, you'll tell us what that means in a little bit, or where that comes from.
Yeah.
So that was in March 2023 after going through a layoff. Okay. Because he was talking to so many smart business owners in Kansas City and had been feeling the nudge to start a podcast, he decided to start recording the conversations and launched Kansas City Business Cast. He believes we all put too much focus on the New York Times bestselling authors, stars, and TED Talkers, and we have local people running their own small businesses, nonprofits, and finding ways to earn a living on their artistry and creativity. So we should be paying more attention to the people we are doing business in life with. Kansas City Business Cast exists to feature the people in Kansas City that are building their own dreams and new dreams for others. And so, yes, you can subscribe to Kansas City Business Cast if you'd like. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And the pages might also be listed under KCBC. But it's Kansas City Business Cast on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
That's correct.
Perfect. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I so appreciate it.
This has been fun already, so I'm excited to get into this. So do you want to talk first about the Business Cast, or like because I know you also put that you used to be a former metal musician.
Yeah.
It's like, which way do we start with?
Yeah. So just real quickly, like on my background, like I have always been pretty underground and quote punk rock, as the kids say. Grew up listening to bands like Bush and The Offspring and Scorpions, Metallica, Pantera. Got exposed to playing guitar when I was 13. I learned a power chord, which is the only chord you need. You can play it all over the neck. I know musicians and jazz folks especially will disagree with me, but that's all I knew how to play. So I literally learned how to play guitar by listening to songs. And back in the day, we had AOL. You'd go download tablature, which isn't even like music, and I'd learn how to play these songs.
That's the only way I know how to play. I only know how to read tabs. I don't know how to read music.
And now there's apps,
Yes.
and like the kids have no idea how fortunate they are. Like my daughters are learning music right now, and so there's a YouTube video for everything. But like, I was fortunate. I grew up playing in bands, punk bands, metal bands, from Southern California. So like a lot of those groups went on to sign deals. My band was included in that. Played for a band called Sinai Beach, not Cyanide Beach, but Sinai Beach, like Mount Sinai in the Sinai province.
Cool.
And we got signed and we toured the world. We played Kansas City multiple times. The El Torreon, which I believe is around here, was an old jazz place. And so we always felt terrible playing there because it was like, oh, Etta James, Duke Ellington, and Louis Armstrong played here, and we're going to come in here and scream and play our heavy music. But part of it was really cool too. And so I have always had a heart for people. Here's the connecting point, right? Like the heart for people that are, going through it, in life. And when I got laid off, that rocked my world. That was rough. I was a top performer. Like it was one of those things like people kind of assume when there's a reduction in force, like, you must have done something wrong. And I went through that identity crisis too. But because I was building my business and I was having all these cool conversations, like you said, like I have a nationally recognized children's book best-selling author on my street, right? Just regular everyday dude. But we'd have conversations and I'd walk away from it. And I think a lot of people listening probably have the same effect sometimes, but you go, gosh, I wish we would have recorded that conversation.
I've had moments like that. Yeah, for real. I'm like, what am I doing?
Isn't it surreal?
It. Yeah. But it's crazy. As you're saying, like, I don't know, like celebrities kind of are everyday people, but it's crazy when you have an everyday person literally in your life, but they have so much knowledge or so much to give, so many gems. And
And part of it too was being on LinkedIn and you see like the same business author quotes like over and over again. And I go, that sounds like something my neighbor Daniel said, right? But like he doesn't even know who that influencer is. And so there's this part of realizing that like I think through COVID, like I really wanted to make sure I was supporting like the local businesses because a lot of them were getting shut down. And so I feel like it's so important for us to like support the business owners and leaders that we're not only doing life with, like odds are our kids go to the same schools, right? We go to the same places, we go to the same movie theaters, all that. But like doing life and business together. And so I created the podcast to kind of shine that light. And again, I know I'm not the only game in town, right? There's so many podcasts doing that. At the time, I just felt like it was kind of a cry of my soul. And then also I wanted to bring in some of my punk rock synthwave influence, which you'll see in the color schemes that I use with the podcast. Like I do everything. So
that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah.
You come up with like your designs and stuff, or
yeah.
Cool.
And I've used AI over time because the first earlier episodes you'll see they all have the same cover art and stuff. But like over time, I've tried to make like Clark Roosevelt, right? Shout out Clark from Clever World. His whole tagline was "No rain, no flowers," right? So when I was creating his artwork this past weekend before the episode dropped, I was just typing in prompts in the AI like rain and flowers in a beautiful scene. And I use like a retro wave, theme, and then it'll give me the colors. So I go through probably about 20 images before I pick the background because I'm so picky. But I'm making all the stuff.
I was just saying as like business owners, you tend to wear all the hats. So that's what I was asking. Right. I was like, yeah, you wear all the hats.
Yeah.
That's cool though. And I feel like it just builds character, and that's what builds you being able to have those like quotes just kind of like in your head, like you have the actual real life experience. So it's just it's not like a trendy quote. It's just like, this is what I know. This is how it works.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So let's see. We wanted to talk about like how this is helping you build the community.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about any of this? I know we just talked about Clark, or any of the other, like what type of people do you have on your podcast, and how does it make it a little bit different from the other podcasts that you were saying? Like a lot of people are doing this, and even on my show, like I bring in all kinds of people. But so like, what is the type of people that you look for?
Yeah, great question. So what, it all started, it was like a little bit of a punk rock grassroots effort. So I was like, who's not going on podcasts? And so a lot of my earlier guests, especially, my podcast was the first one they were ever on, because I knew they would be dropping bangers in our conversations. And I'm like, I want you to do that, but do it for your business. And we'll make you have the 1 minute reel on Instagram where everyone's like, oh, who's that? She's really smart. He's really smart, whatever. Yeah. And so let's do that. I've had folks who have huge followings on the show. I've had people like Cam F. Awesome. I met him
I've heard
in
of him too.
passing, right? Like in passing at one of a local studio here. And again, he was one of those people that I was like, I'm going to ask him. He's probably going to say no. But he was like, dude, I'd love to be on your podcast. He'd never heard about it. And he was super cool. We had a great conversation. I've had my friend, who's now my friend in the place that I work out at, Sid Balakrishnan. I met him through the podcast. He runs Beastified in Overland Park. Lots of friends in the martial arts community out here in Kansas City. That's been the biggest gift, is just connecting with business owners and other business owners. And also too, because I'm just talking about businesses, I've also found like amazing nonprofits like the Porterhouse KC, Sharon and Dan, run that. And actually their company, Black Drip Coffee, was one of the sponsors for KCBC last season. And that's the other thing, is I've found like local sponsors that, when I say the ad in that YouTube video, that's a Kansas City business that I'm talking about. But it's grown from businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, marketing professionals, to content creators, people in retail like Clark, and also other podcasters. My friend John from I-70, Gabriel from To Bring About, Bump Jonas from Sprinkle Some Salt, who I know has been on this show. I wouldn't have any of these connections. Oh, how can I forget the guys from Indelibly Marked? Sorry, I'm going to make this. We're going to have to pick up all the names I'm dropping here on the floor. But it really has become like a tribe, And I think one thing I will say is I do believe I'm the only podcast that says, here's our core values. And I put those out there. And those are also the core values for my company, VAS. So, and tribal strength is one of those. And so as I've also seen guests connect with other guests, and I've done introductions, and the show was the conduit by which they were connected, that's also that's where I'm like, I got to keep doing this.
Is that what you mean by tribal strength? Or is that like a name of someone's brand?
No, that's one of my immutable laws. So I have 4 immutable laws. Most people say core values, but I go, they're immutable laws, because whenever I go against these or I don't uphold these, I attract the wrong types of clients, wrong types of guests. So just real quick, here they are.
Yeah, let me know.
Divergent leadership. So that's based on the idea that we lead divergently, not just to be punk rock just because.
Yeah, I want to talk about punk rock too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
But finding new ways to lead in our community, right? Like things like if a problem needs to get solved and the same old solutions aren't working, what can we do? What can we try differently? So always thinking about problems differently. Continuous improvement is the second one. I'm a living, breathing example of that. Like I've improved all things in my life, like health metrics, my relationships, all that stuff, through continuous improvement. Tribal strength is based on the idea that, there's no I in team, as cheesy as that sounds, but if you want to get anywhere in life, you have to have a tribe of people with you and around you, especially in business ownership, right?
Yeah.
You need people that are supportive. And then that last piece is, I'm totally blanking on it right now. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh.
Good.
I've got it actually.
No, I know you do.
This is why I have it pinned on my Instagram. Experiential learning. So it's the idea of like, I can only learn by doing. And that's why, like with the podcast, I was so anti-social media. I was like, I'm not going to get out there and talk. I have nothing to say. And I was like, that's exactly why I need to do it.
Oh my God.
I need to learn by doing.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that off the air, right? Like what you're learning in your journey. And
yeah, you asked me what my music experience was before this. You guys, none. I just really like music, and I've worked at music like concert venues, and I've promoted music with like flyers and stuff like that. That's gotten me to know the city in a different way, like actually going into these buildings and seeing how the small businesses are run, and learning about different types of marketing and it's just crazy. I just like use these experiences to learn everything else. I feel like all of your they're not core values. What do you just call them?
Immutable laws.
Immutable laws. I like that word too.
Yeah.
I feel like those apply to me. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I challenge everybody listening. Like if you have
Seriously.
not done that exercise in your life, when you do that and you say what's really important to you, you'll start with a list of 20 things, and then you'll see like 10 of them are probably the same thing worded differently. But when you really boil it down and then you start saying, and I ask myself every time I have a guest or somebody approaches me, I look at what they do and I go, does this person have these qualities that are my strengths? Because if they do, we're going to have an amazing time. We're going to have an amazing episode. They're going to do everything they said they do. They're going to promote the show. They're going to do all that stuff. And then somebody's going to get electrified by that, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, if they don't value a tribe or community, they're not going to be a fit for my show, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're not leading differently, they're probably not going to be a fit for my show. They'll be a fit for other people's shows, and that's fine. Again, if they're not a fit, it's not a criticism. It's just I had to get super clear. I had to get super clear about what I was doing and who I wanted to do it for.
Right. I was just talking about that, and like my way of giving advice to people is to kind of what you're saying, but like find what it is that works for you. And it doesn't, you don't have to do the same thing that I'm doing. You don't have to do it in the same way, but as long as you have morals about it and you're following your compass, I feel like this is the way to like be happy within your life. Because I don't think you're going to find happiness in your life copying someone else's exact path, but you can look to them and be like, okay, well, this person follows, you know, their morals. This person makes sure that the people around them are, you know, so exactly. But yeah.
Well, their path isn't for you, right?
Right.
Like if it was, you'd be walking it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about like advice. I love how you take that. It sounds very individualistic.
It's like I'm trying to give them advice, but it's like do it in your way. Yeah. Instead of copying.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. That's an example. I feel like I totally live by those things, or I try to at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, with punk is like rebel. Is it, or is it? I'm going to ask, because I feel like also with reggae, it's rebel.
Yeah.
And I've been having these conversations with a friend too about how these things collide. And so I think that's really cool to be able to talk about it on air, and what your experience is and how you bring that into what you do with your business. Because I do too. I do wear reggae on my sleeve. I'd say it's not a reggae show, but oh my God, I can't separate myself from it. So
yeah.
But yeah, what is the punk scene like, and are you guys rebels as well?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, punk, and I go back to who I look at as like the people who started punk, right? And I know that this with music, people can argue multiple different viewpoints, but I think of like the Misfits, like Glenn Danzig and the Misfits. I think of Henry Rollins and Black Flag. Loud, terrible recording quality, lots of feedback, music that you've got to be dedicated to listen to it. And a lot of it's about like, it's just about yelling out your emotions, and just a lot of it was built because the system's in place, like people wanted to rebel against that. And so doing it in a club with a bunch of other kids, right? And I look at my earliest roots. We had a couple of different factions in punk when I was growing up. We had, there was the straight edge crowd. So like the kids who would write X's across their hands, and they got that from Minor Threat. Again, other pioneers in the punk scene, but all punk is pretty much founded on this, like it's counterculture, it's rebellious. Some might say anarchy, right?
Yeah.
But what I liked was it was loud, and it made me feel really good going to those shows and sweating and moshing, and not moshing to hurt people. Like I was never one of those people, but I love the artwork too. So like you've been a part of street teams, you've made flyers.
Yes.
You remember how back in the day we didn't have like Microsoft Paint was as sophisticated as it got. So you're literally all those earlier flyers for like those earlier punk bands. It's literally they're cutting letters out of newspapers and placing them and putting them on a copy machine and making 1,000 copies.
It's crazy.
It's so punk. It's so guerrilla warfare type. You know,
that's cool.
So
I like that type of stuff though.
Bands like Rage Against the Machine that like
I've played them on my show.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like it's weird too, but like when Denzel Curry covered Bulls on Parade, if you have not listened to that or heard that version, watch it on YouTube. It is incredible. Well, watch it on YouTube if you want to see a new spin on Rage, but just that spirit, I feel like that had a lot to do with me just choosing guitar and playing loud music and seeing how I could formulate it, you know, and taking that into business. I tried to, when I went to the corporate environment, I tried to deny my roots.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's too loud. People don't listen to this stuff. So if I want to fit in, I better not talk about these things. I'll talk about the more pop culture, you know, type music where I can fit in. But I tried, I don't know, diminishing that stuff. And then finally, when I started my own business, I was like, I'm going to make the color scheme crimson red logo, super sharp looking. And then when I do this podcast, I'm just going to do 80s synthwave style because I think it looks cool, you know? And when I go back to that, like, I love retro stuff. And so I've embraced that. Thankfully, a lot of it's come around too, like the retro Nike Dunks and all those different color schemes come out. Sorry, I'm going on tangents now. So
no,
I'll
you're
stop,
fine.
but.
I think retro is cool. And I'm hearing how it mixes too. I really like tie-dye. I feel like that has, I don't know if it's ever gone out of style. Like the hippies in like the 60s or whatever. So,
you know,
they made tie-dye, and I don't know, has it gone out? I just feel like those people just grew up and now they're like maybe older adults and grandparents now, and now like our generation's like tie-dye. I make tie-dye, so I feel like it's just never gone out.
My
of style.
daughters made tie-dye shirts, and I was like, I saw it and I got all warm and fuzzy inside. I was like, this reminds me of my roots, you know, because I was an 80s baby. So growing up, but I don't think, I personally, the things I like, they never go out of style for me.
Exactly. So
you know, so
I like that. I like these environments where you're able to continue to be yourself. I think that's why I really like being here at the radio station. But I wish that there was more environments like that, or that these corporate environments could like ease up a little bit. I just feel like life is way too short to be serious all the time.
I've seen it happen in companies I've worked for. As younger generations, they are now being promoted into management positions, and they're seeing the value in having a diverse workforce and people who, you know, come from all walks of life and listen to all kinds of different music and finding ways to express themselves. And then like casual dress codes allow people, like, I wear these multicam shoes to work. I wear this is something I'd wear to
your
work.
work outfit.
You know, and my company allows me to express myself that way. So that helps too.
That's cool. So I know you were talking about divergent leadership. And so does that have anything to do with like neurodivergence? Have you heard of this phrase too? And go ahead.
So I would say it's not connected there. I got divergent leadership from this concept that there are aspects in military training right now and business training where they are trying to raise up leaders that are not necessarily yes people, but are thinking of new ways to lead. And so they just use that word divergent to say, you know, we're going to hire open-minded people to run our units. And then in the business setting, like run our company. I actually don't know much about the term neurodivergence. I know because typically it was autism, right? And now I've been hearing that more. And there's something that I appreciate about that because I just see how there's a different approach to thinking, right? And, you know, we've seen things like, I think, the telepathy tapes now. It's like a big deal. Like, it's wild, the stuff that they're discovering there, you know? And so there's a connection there.
There is a connection. I think it's just kind of like the root word of it.
Right.
But I feel like neurodivergent people just think differently, and they kind of have their natural, and it's natural to them. And it's not necessarily natural to everyone else. And so I really appreciate that because they're bringing a new flavor to how things are already or just naturally going. Like typical, just because it's like tradition doesn't mean it has to continue. So I feel like neurodivergent people, not necessarily just them, but they're some of the people who just kind of throw a curveball, and I think I appreciate it, and I like it because it's like being inclusive to everyone, and in different environments we're allowing people to learn differently, to lead differently, and stuff like that. So I think they could go together.
And as we're talking about this, I'm actually having a realization that I know of a couple of people personally that I have watched be amazing leaders, be amazing, and there really is. There's nobody that thinks like they do. And so it's weird. I'm having this epiphany right now.
It could be ADHD. It could be autism and other things.
Right.
They just think differently, operate differently,
Absolutely.
and not necessarily unable to operate. It's just different. So that's what I like about it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. You probably do know people in your life.
Right. Well,
because there's also masking that goes into that too. But
Absolutely.
I'll get off of that soapbox.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned your first business. Let's just give people the details about what you do.
Yeah. So with VAS and vocati ad servitium, that is Latin for called to serve.
Cool.
And that is, I think it was like the Canadian paramedic force was the one who adopted that. And then there's another U.S. like special unit. I think it's like another medical sort of team in the U.S. military that uses that. And for me, it was really like, I know it's long. I know people are going to mispronounce it. I'll call it VAS. But for me, truly, like if you're helping businesses grow, because that's what I do. I work mainly with small business owners and say, hey, you've got some operational waste in your processes. How can we eliminate some of that so that you and or your employees are doing more of the things that you love to do versus, managing, information in multiple systems. And really, if you want to lead, like if you want to be a leader in anything, it's actually more serving than leading in a way. You have to model the example. You have to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations. You need to realize that the progress, if you want to make progress fast in your business, you have to go slow to go fast, right? Excuse me. And so really that was my tagline in my email for about 10 years. I served in men's ministry at different churches in the past, and I always had that in my tagline, and it was a great conversation starter. People were like, what does that mean? Or they'd Google it and say, wow, I'm called to serve too, and so it just made sense to call it that. And so I have sort of, because of some conflicts of interest in my full-time job, I've stopped certain services with VAS. But I continue to work with business owners, and actually was on a call 2 months ago. I had a 1-hour coaching call with a client, and actually the information that I provided them got them to not go forward with their business, which sounds like a huge failure or loss. But the fact that our conversation brought them so much clarity that they decided they were going to go in a different direction, that those are the types of things that I do. But I take that from my experience working for global companies and companies in public government, like County of Riverside, who I used to work with. I learned a lot about organizations, leadership development, and all that. So I bring that sort of perspective from those bigger organizations, and I can help the small business owner who is usually really good at something and they love doing it, but then they've got to scale their business and they don't know how, so I'll help them with that.
So you do that. It's VAS. I want to learn how you say it. Vocati?
Vocati ad servitium.
Cool. Vocati ad servitium. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
And then you also have Kansas City Business Cast, which I know we have talked about, but I want it for people who are just not listening, or just to wrap it up a little. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Kansas City Business Cast is my podcast, and actually it is kind of an extension of VAS. I call it the why of VAS, and VAS is the how. That's why the immutable laws, which are pinned on our Instagram page, the 4, those are the same values for VAS. And I was like, why don't I do this for the podcast? Because no one else is doing that. Also, it'd make it very clear for me and my listeners as to the types of folks we're having on this show. But yeah, Kansas City Business Cast, I say it's a cast of entrepreneurs, content creators, nonprofits, and influencers in Kansas City. And we're in our 58th episode. Happy to tell everybody you're going to be coming on the show. Yes. And that's going to be awesome. Yeah. So you'll be part of season 6. So I have you coming on the show. You're awesome.
Thank you.
And, it really, aside from those core values, I think really to be a good fit for the show, it's just, I tell people this, and I'll tell you this eventually when we record your episode. I tell my guests, I want you to be as proud of your episode and as proud of what you do as I am. It's really hard when you get people coming on a show. Sometimes they're like, oh, well, I didn't say that right. Or they get really self-conscious. And so if you're somebody who is proud of what you're doing and how you're serving people in Kansas City, and we're going to do an episode and you're going to tell the whole world about it, you're a good fit for the show.
Nice.
So
yeah, it's, oh my gosh, here it's live. like on my show. So it does add pressure to people. I try to make people feel as comfortable as they can.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of pressure doing this live on the radio. When I first started, actually, I wanted to do a podcast, and I didn't really know how to go about doing it. And then I learned I could add music into it, and I was like, oh my God, that's my thing. So that's really cool. And it's on Kansas City Business Cast on like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify,
Apple, and LinkedIn.
Cool.
Yeah. The main page is on Instagram at KCBC 913. And then on YouTube, it's at KCBC TV. Cool.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about?
No, I just so appreciate what you're doing here. Actually, this whole building, like walking into KKFI, it's incredible. And as I was doing like the form, like registering to come here, so everybody knew who I was, and when I park outside, I'm here. I started looking at all the other shows that you have, and so huge shout to everyone here at KKFI. Also, so impressed, giving the network the flowers of reposting my posts on Instagram. I was like seriously, it's the little things. It's the little things as an influencer or podcaster. When people are willing to do that stuff and share what others are doing with their tribe, like that's amazing. And that's my parting thought is like, if you have somebody or a business, ask yourself, are you supporting them? Next time you go to order from, the big box places online who have an app that aren't sponsoring the show, so I'm not going to name them.
Right?
I'm not going to say their name. Think of your people in your community, and then also, have you given them a Google review? Have you gone and like with my podcast, it's like I'll ask people, like, if you really like it, they'll say, man, I love your show. I'm like, if you really like it, hey, consider giving us a rating, because that helps. When you do those things, when you actually show your affection for these companies, like Yelp review, Google reviews, all that kicks them up in that algorithm, and that makes it so other people can love them just as much as you do. And so that's the thing, is I just challenge everybody, really. Like, if you have a business or a nonprofit or whomever, think of ways you can support them. And sometimes with the nonprofit, it's like, can I go and can I volunteer at their next event? Can I help them, because it's given to you so much. Help spread the word. Like, that's the new currency, right?
Yeah, it really is. I feel like there's honestly a lot of free ways to support local businesses and support your friends, especially with social media, and the way that the algorithm works, that you can kind of trick the algorithm to be like, this is really popular, people want to see this.
Yep.
And just natural sharing, like copying the link and sending it to your friend as a text message, and just a short little message about why it's important.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's also why influencers became popular, even though some people, I think maybe a little bit of the older generation, some people think it's like a trendy thing, or not a real job.
Not a real job comes up all the time.
But it's really important. And I don't know, it's just like having a marketing rep for your business, almost like an advertising rep, and they're just out here telling people about what you're doing. So
yeah,
I think that's important, and that's what KKFI does as well. So I think, that's why they shared it. We want to make sure that if we have guests coming on, that we're telling our entire radio station about it, because we have so many people. Actually, really funny, I watched this video today on Protege's Instagram account, which is a reggae artist from Jamaica.
Okay, writing him down.
So his name's Protege, Protoje. I played one of his songs earlier, but he reposted a video of this guy who's wearing a cowboy hat singing his reggae song, and it just really it was really funny to me, but it also just reminded me of the people here at KKFI that listen to everything, and even me too. Like, I don't know if people look at me on the outside and understand what kind of music I like and listen to. And I even noticed that with the music that we promote in Kansas City, they tend to market it too hard, and they think, oh, I'm at a hip hop show, so you only want to hear about other local hip hop shows that are coming up. But no, I want to hear about the rock music that's coming, and the punk scene, and the R&B, and the reggae, and all of the things. So I feel like more people are actually multifaceted than what maybe even these big companies are realizing yet. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I feel like the bigger companies haven't realized.
You're onto something with that.
Yeah. And even like with your show, like you have a wide variety of people, but it's like all in one spot. But you're attracting people who are interested in that wide variety. Like, we're not just one-dimensional people anymore.
I'm so proud of that with KCBC too, because one week we're gonna have Alicia McDougall, who
I know
runs.
her. Yeah.
She was
HR and stuff.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago she was on my show. So 1 week we're gonna have her, then we're gonna have Clark.
Yeah.
And I've got a jiu-jitsu practitioner coming on later. You're gonna hear perspective from him. I've had fitness people, I've had interior designers, I've had a realtor, I've had a loan officer. Like you're gonna get so much.
And it's crazy how much you can learn from these people. Yeah. Seriously.
Actually, that's the way to learn, right?
That is, yeah.
Is to go outside. The tagline, I should have said this for VAS, is learn more, know less. Because you have to admit that you don't know it all to take the posture of a learner. And by listening to diverse perspectives, that's how you actually learn. You get out of your own head, because the last thing you want is to be told the same thing everywhere you go. Oh my God. Because then you're only, I call it like the same thing with like why diversity is important in the workplace, right? Like you don't want a homogenous workforce, like when it comes to like thought and, if everybody, you've
thought
seen this.
Or leadership.
Yeah, leadership. Or or if you've listened to, music, you don't want to listen to the same music. Like when we would tour in the metal band, we would put on rap and country because all we played was metal.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm getting tired of this.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear something else. And then that will inspire you in your craft, I'm very passionate about this stuff.
Me too.
So
that's really cool. Yeah, I don't want to take up all of your time today, but I appreciate your time and coming out here.
Appreciate you.
This has been really fun.
Absolutely.
And I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did, 100%.
Yeah. Give people your contact information or just the links again.
Yeah. So Instagram.com/KCBC913, YouTube.com/@KCBCTV. Those are the two places. We got all the links everywhere else, but basically on Instagram and YouTube, that's where you can find us and our guests.
Nice. And if you guys think that you align with his mutable laws.
Immutable laws,
Immutable. I'm bad with words sometimes, but that's okay. Then reach out to him and we'll see if he'll see if that's a good fit for his show. I'm sure he's looking for people we haven't heard of yet in Kansas City. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're going to talk about the last song that you mentioned. We're going to play Beres Hammond, Warriors Don't Cry.
Yeah.
I really like Beres Hammond. He has a really good voice and he's a classic reggae artist. But it's just a song that you like as well in the reggae.
It might have been the first reggae song that I heard where I was like, oh my gosh, the feel and the vibe of this song. And Warriors Don't Cry, how he says that line over and over again. I mean, I've learned over time, like, I'm a man, I'm gonna cry sometimes, right? Like if I'm not crying when my kids are born, like, or there's all these milestone moments, then like I probably need counseling.
I know, men should cry.
Yeah, and
oh my gosh,
we're all warriors in a way. We're all fighting battles that nobody knows anything about, and I think it's just the song, the way he uses the I don't even know what instrument it is. I should know it by now because when I first heard it, it was all I listened to for about a month. It was just on repeat. So
nice.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you
for being here. And we're gonna get back to music, you guys. You're tuned into Vital Vibrations Radio right here on 90.1 FM, KKFI Kansas City Community Radio. And this next song is called "Warriors Don't Cry" by Beres Hammond. If you missed any of this, you can listen to the interview again on the archive.kkfi.org.